What's good B-roll today? We're not going to admit the fact that we have 2 Seb McKinnon mats out in the studio.
Oh, I didn't even... They were just there.
You put them out. You put them out.
And I set myself up for failure.
Yeah, and you're sitting there with a Seb McKinnon mat. You gave me one.
That's fucking yours, though.
Okay. But in all fairness, I paid for this this play mat before we knew or before his whole scandal thing.
Pre-Seb.
Yeah. Pre-fired Seb. Yeah, that. What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Moxstars podcast, the #1 podcast on the internet for Magic the Gathering and Dr. Pepper.
Just leaning into it.
The crisp Dr. P, the delight that doesn't stop giving. I'm one of your hosts, Evan Kunai, and I'm here with Jordan Garcia!
Holy shit, that is the most intense energy you've ever brought in. I could never hope to match that level of energy, but what the fuck is up? My name is Jordan Garcia, and we're here to talk about Magic the Gathering, the greatest game on Earth, while we're drinking the best beverage on Earth, and that is crisp, cool Dr. Pepper. Oh my god. Bro, you should have heard what we talked about before we started recording. Holy shit.
Okay, all right.
What are we talking about?
It is just Jordan and I in the studio today. We have we have a very interesting topic for today's show. It is the power level dilemma and all that goes along with it. We're basically going to break it down, this power level guide that everyone in EDH has been using forever based on the 1 to 10 and how it has affected the game and how we know it today and the format entirely. So,
spoiler alert, it's trash.
We do not have strong feelings for it. But hopefully we can have some insight that'll help resolve some of the issues that you may be having with it by the end of this episode. So before we get into that, you can help support the show by subscribing to us on YouTube. Hit that thumbs up and hit that little bell for more notifications as to when episodes are dropping, which is every single Friday. What's up?
Every goddamn Friday.
And you can follow us on all major podcasting platforms, Spotify, Audible, you name it. We're there. Moxstars, MTG.
Hit us with those 5 stars.
Hit us with the 5 stars because it goes a long way to helping new people find the show.
I will say, since we started saying that, we've been getting a lot more reviews on the podcast platforms, so I super appreciate y'all.
Oh, heck yeah. Let's go. And be sure to join the Discord server because we're popping off. We're actually going to do a little pregame action in honor of one of our Discord members, Guy like the word.
Shout out. I have no idea what we're talking about, so go ahead.
All right. Today on the Discord server, I asked Guy in the channel discussion, what should we talk about today? And he gave me a lot. He just spilled out everything. He's like, I don't know, man. Bunch of shower thoughts. So today's pregame action, shower thoughts.
Shower thoughts,
Magic
like the old post from Tumblr. What was that on?
I don't know.
Okay.
But I have shower thoughts a lot. And I do have shower thoughts a lot about Magic the Gathering. I usually do a lot of my deck building when I'm in the shower.
I do think you were specifically referencing a old comedy account, or maybe even a current comedy account about shower thoughts.
Oh.
But I'm glad you relate to that, and we should definitely discuss. So shower thoughts regarding to what? Magic the Gathering?
Magic the Gathering. And Guy had a lot of great points that he brought up, a few deck ideas. Basically, the one that I really want to talk about is one that you can level with specifically.
Okay.
Is Yuriko 1 or 2 ninjas away from being top tier CD?
Oh, so this is what we're considering shower thoughts. Just like those, like you're in the shower and all of a sudden you just get like a little magic thought pops in your head.
Yeah,
because now that the craziness of life is cleared out.
Yep.
We can think about the real things that matter.
Exactly. And you start creating custom magic cards in your head. Like, what ninja would Yuriko need to break them, like to break out and actually be a consistent deck you would see at the table at every single tournament?
If I can be honest, I don't think it's a ninja that's going to make Yuriko better than it currently is.
Is it access to Dockside?
I think it's better. I can't say better cards in the Dimir card pool because there's some really good cards.
A lot of good ones.
But that being said, Yuriko is inherently limited by what it does. That like the engine helps it go very far, but that is also its ceiling. So unless something comes out that drastically changes what as a deck's strategy and the dynamic of playing Yuriko can do, like I don't think there's much further we can push. Right. I don't think they're going to put another 1,000 or something that one-ups Thousand Face Shadow or what is that, whatever the fuck it's called, the blue one.
Oh, you're talking about the one drop?
Yeah, the one drop. Like they printed that for like Yuriko people just to like absolutely go nuts on.
It's one of the best ninjas we've ever seen.
They were like, yes, we know Yuriko's a card. Here you go. And I don't know how many more you're going to get of that. So I just don't know how much like that's going to get better. So I would push to just see like new strategies, new things that become available. Things like, honestly, like Born Upon a Wind, like that is creating new strategies in these kind of decks. You're playing Necropons or whatever, or any other kind of card pushing in this card pool, giving us more options.
Yeah.
We don't have Underworld Breach. We don't have Dockside, so it's pretty limited.
Would you say that like a ninja that is super high mana value but has a very low ninjutsu cost with a downside when it enters the battlefield wouldn't help the deck at all?
I mean, I guess it maybe would make the card pool slightly better, but I don't think it'll do what people like want it to do. So
in your opinion, not 1 or 2 cards, not 1 or 2 ninjas away from being top tier certified.
Guess what? No other top tier deck plays ninjas. So the printing of 2 new ninjas shouldn't make it more viable, unfortunately.
I was going to hit the button and I'm like, I don't know which one it is for the trombone.
Just try one.
Just try one?
Yeah. Oh, God, it's so
No,
loud.
not that. It's not that. It's not that.
Wow.
It's not that one.
Oh, so sorry about that.
Okay.
One more.
I did it!
Let's go. And all the volumes I turned down, it was not the one.
Oh, nice.
So it was still just as loud.
Okay. Thank you, Guy, for the interesting subject for us to sort of like unfurl.
I actually really like this concept.
Yeah. Like just a little bit of like a shower thought, man.
What do you think about this? A little peek behind the curtain for everybody else listening at home. Ooh. What if on the Discord channel, we opened up a little additional channel that say shower thoughts, and we get everybody just pipe in there, and then that kind of generates a opening topic for us each episode.
And let's just make it clear that this channel may open up to the general public for a limited time, but in order to gain access to it in the future, you would need a specific role.
Oh.
Which you can acquire.
From where?
Through our Patreon account.
Ooh. Seamless transition.
Wow. I just launched it yesterday. So It is active. It is not totally public yet. For all you early listeners, you can jump on, and we just have the supporter role available at the moment. But if you want to be a very early supporter of the show, I'll make sure to include that link in the description below.
100%. And we just know we'll be aggressively adding tiers with excellent content to appease all you at home who want a little extra taste, a little Moxstars Plus.
Oh, yeah. I can't bring any intensity. It just reminds me of the intro. All right, let's move on to the main subject.
Yes, sir.
The meat of the episode, the power level dilemma.
Ooh.
As we all know, we have been grading our decks on a casual basis on a power level of 1 through 10. And there is one image that has circulated the internet that has basically given everyone the grounding for their rankings. It is a 1 through 10 power scale that it basically breaks it down into 5 subjects, and then it breaks it, or like 5 different like sections, and then it breaks it down into each number. So let's start with a 1, right? 1 and 2 fall under the subject of unfocused.
Unfocused.
Has no game plan. Right? A 1 is a random pile of cards. 2 is what's a win con? So literally a random pile of cards is a 1, which just doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And then 2, what's a win con? A deck with literally no win condition through any means possible.
You just play like every cultivate you can find.
Yeah, but then you have no creatures? Creatures with all with 0 power? Do you have just like...
No, just more cultivates.
Having one single creature with
more
1 power
cultivates
would be a win con.
More cultivates. You play 50 cultivates, 50 lands. GG's, bro.
All right.
That's got to be a 2. It's more than a 1.
Yeah,
it's more than a 1, right?
It is more than a 1. It is more than a 1.
Boom, that's
you get
a 2.
A lot of lands.
50 lands, 50 cultivates. Move on.
God, genius. But you can only have 1. Never mind.
No. There's like just different types. You know, Kadama's Reach, every single one you can possibly find.
Oh, like all the ones from different, like draft sets, stuff like that.
All of them.
Okay, cool. All right. 3 and 4 fall under the subject of focused. In this, a 3 is a normal precon. Do you agree?
We're calling 3 a precon.
3 is a normal precon.
That's interesting because most people I've spoken to say about 5 is about the precon level.
4 is a strong precon.
Jesus Christ.
So would you say, like, this is the scale that I would, like when I think about, like, a precon, I would rather we have more room at the top to be able to define.
That's fair.
You know, like.
Everything's a 10. It's just,
I lost to it. 10. I lost to it. It's a 10.
Okay, fair enough. I'm willing. This is definitely off of my axis of what I would think of this. So I'm interested to see how we progress.
Right. So 3 being a normal precon, I would say that the cycling precon,
Gavi, Savine,
Chronoclasm, yeah, both notably Jeskai.
Terrible decks.
Yeah.
We're going to call those 3s.
We'll call those old school precons because the strong precons, I would say, are the more modern day ones that have actual synergies and powerful cards.
We thought of the exact same card when we were talking about this. It's not only a Dearnice. That precon was slapping.
And that'll hit you hard. That literally just has all of the like synergies you could ever want for a party deck, like in those 2 colors. In it.
Yeah,
There's
and then
not
like
a lot you need to change.
Spoiler alert, when we're talking about like how just discongruous all this is, like say you're just like, all right, we're all bringing precons to the table, and you show up with Gavi, and you show up with Savine the Chronoclasm, and one other terrible deck, and then Valia Dearnice. It's like, those are just 2 very different things.
Yeah, it's crazy because we go up to 5 and 6. 5 is upgraded precons. 6 is decks with a plan. Now, there's already a little bit of mixing of the waters here because saying that a strong precon is a deck without a plan is essentially what is inherently said there. Right? The precons are decks without plans.
They need to define what a plan is, I guess.
Yes.
Like, is plan like a combo? Like a win condition?
Decks that have a definite strategy in mind or multiple that synergize well to enable a solid game plan.
See, in my head, that would be a good precon.
That is a good precon, yes. Spell choices are more focused, but with mixed levels of efficiency. Lands entering untapped are prioritized. This battle cruiser decks are uncommon here. Most decks contain at least 1 hard win con, usually a combo. Now, that's not a 6. If you're talking that one of your win cons is a combo, I think people automatically usher that up into a higher realm. But
I think like for most casual people, they would say if you're touching any combo, you're looking at like 8.
Yeah,
for the scaredy cats.
Yeah, for scaredy cats for sure. Now, like a 6 having a combo is a win strategy. My freaking Kumena deck is a 6 on a good day sometimes, right? It has a combo that relies on 9 permanents being on the battlefield at the same time. So, like, is that a combo? Is it like it has a specific plan, and that's put Merfolk on the battlefield and draw
broken.
Cards.
Yeah,
wow.
You're thinking about a direction in which your commander can get you towards winning the game.
So is that
How
a 6
dare you?
or is that below that? Does that fall into, because all the cards are refined in a way, like they're all Merfolk.
I mean, I think by this category it has to be a 6. We're talking 6 for sure.
Okay. All right. 7, playing with power. Decks are largely refined down to just the best cards for their strategy. 8, living on the edge. Decks have a specific, consistent game plan, often following defined lines of play. Every card enables, supports, or protects the deck's primary strategy. Lots of low-cost ramp, and tight curves means casting multiple spells a turn can be expected as early as turn 1.
Okay, I mean, I guess I could see that this is now effectively the threshold for CDH.
This is where I've been on record in the past saying that any deck can be an 8. Any commander, any legendary creature, you can make a commander deck and it can be an 8 because you have access to some of the most powerful cards in Magic, and if you use all of them and you include combo lines in those colors, mono green has combo lines, mono blue has combo lines, every color has combo lines, right? Then you can potentially build it as an 8. Sometimes you don't even need the commander to be involved in order to win the game. So,
yeah, depending on the colors.
Yeah. So I living on the edge is just something where it's like everything is focused and stuff like that.
That's an 8?
That's an 8. Many decks, but not all, are high budget to budget lists on that.
For 8s.
For 8s.
Okay.
All right. 9. Tier 2 CDH decks.
Oh, okay. So we're just outright referencing CDH now.
Yes.
It's kind of lazy of the writer, no?
Yeah.
Like, define it. Like you
Tier 2 CDH decks. Decks have no fat. Every card matters. Every play is impactful. Decks have several specific lines of play. You're expected to make multiple plays per turn from turn 1. If not sooner, you must be ready to interact just as quickly. Board states are less important than in lower levels. Budget list decks are common, but some decks aren't very expensive. So
I disagree. I agree with everything except for the very last line.
yeah, and that we'll get to that later. Like cost and its relatively and its perception on power level 2. And 10 tier 1 CDH decks. A 10 is literally the perfect deck. I think you have to
Core 4.
You have to use that. Yeah, you have to use that in mind when you're declaring a deck a 10. It is the absolute best deck. Otherwise, we have no ceiling. It's like, what can be considered 10?
Yeah, I think it'd be like, that's got to be like, Core 4, Najeela, Blue Farm, Winota, the fourth one.
Sisay, and you think Winota's at the top? I don't know. I think this is because this is where the opinion.
Well, it's obviously, it's definitely an opinion, but there is a general consensus that the top 4 decks are Najeela, Blue Farm, Winota, and a fourth deck that I can't fucking remember right now.
Okay. The most powerful decks in the format. Every card is hyper efficient, and consistency is almost on a card for card basis. Power plays and instant speed interaction are thrown around like water balloons. While inexpensive decks can be here, budgetless versions of them are almost always going to reign supreme due to efficiency. That is the definition of a 10 on the EDH power levels. The list that pretty much everyone has seen or has circulated the internet.
I've actually never seen this. Oh, I've seen it now. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, I will say that's kind of different than what I've had personally thought, and it's also different than the consensus I've heard from most people, I would say. And that is to say that nobody that I know of or have interacted with when speaking about power level has any idea about this, because the conversation is all over the place. The people saying that, I'm sitting down at a table at PAX, not this year, but last year, and we're like, all right, I sit down at the table with my Malcolm File Smasher list. It's a pretty strong list. And I'm like, all right, guys, what are we playing? Because I also have a precon in my bag. And I was like, I'm probably playing like an 8 or a 9. And it was like a CDH viable commander. Yeah. And I was like, all right, shit, we're playing Gasp. Got it. Bring out Malcolm File Smasher.
Which at the time you would say you were working on it, hyper refining that deck. You'd say it was probably 9. Right?
I mean, using that scale, I would say it was a 10, right? It is 100% the focus deck, card for card, like focusing.
Based on the description, yeah.
Yeah, focusing. It was my tournament grinding deck. So with that, I was like, all right, this is all I have that'll compete. I can play maybe a little slower and play for an 8 and not tournament grind Thassa's Oracle turn 1 or 2.
Right.
But then the rest of the table did not fall to that, or was fair below that. But then this guy ended up playing everything out, and he didn't play anything until turn 4 or 5. Yeah. And then it's literally just tap out on turn 5, cast commander, pass turn. And he was probably playing by this regard. I would say maybe a 3, like a pre-con level deck, not even a tuned level. So it's like the fact that we're having this conversation, and that's not even the only case. It's not a corner case scenario. It's like we stopped going to casual Commander Night because of how uncomfortable some of the experiences were.
Yeah, well, that's because it was happening on a weekly basis. We wanted to get out, and that's the thing is we were making it our mission when we started this podcast to go out and play casual or play at Commander Nights like in Seattle. So we'd go out, and the thing is we'd sit down and we'd have the same experience every single week where someone would tell us what their power level was. And we had decks across the board. Like we had... I had Zakama, which was like my combo deck at the time, but definitely not a 10. You know, I think that was like an 8 because I think Zakama can only really go so high. And, you know, Jordan was playing Malcolm Vile Smasher. We had a lot of really great games there, but most every single time, like my one experience at Phoenix Games was the time that we sat down and someone was like, is the deck, I have a proxy deck, is that all right? But I know it's competitive. And it was a Krenko deck that was just focused on like spitting out tons of goblins, right? They end up winning on turn 3 of the game, you know? So it's like
they rolled us.
Yeah, it's like great. Like, thank you. Now we know what we're in. Like, let's go. I'll play Zakama.
We had some good experiences there too. We had some people that like, even though they weren't quite to the level that we were playing at, they were like excited about it. And they were like, oh, I didn't know people here were playing like this, you know? So there was that too. But for all of those experiences, there was like the one that I know we're both thinking of, where we played this very casual game against a Lannis player who all I had on my entire battlefield, or I had done the entire game, was I think on turn 3, I cast a Mayhem Devil.
Yeah.
On curve.
And they had cast Lannis on curve, and they had been creating a ton of clues and a ton of like treasures.
Yeah, they had like Cannery Manufacturer
and
Lannis, and then they were like, crack 1 clue. And I was like, okay, I'll point 1 damage out Lannis. And then they were literally just like, oh, like, so that's how this game's gonna go. Like, like oh, sorry. Like, what?
Yeah, what do you expect? He fired a shot across the bow. Like, it doesn't even kill Lannis. It didn't even kill Lannis. But I literally looked over at Jordan, and I saw his eyes roll into the back of his skull.
Scooped right there.
He sat at the table, was respectful, but that game was over at that point. And it just leads to a lot of like, okay, so I can't play the game, but I'm supposed to allow you to play the game.
100%.
And that's like, you know, that's where this power level like thing comes in discussion, because when we sat down, what you were playing, I forgot what deck it was that you were playing, but it like I remember sitting down and they're like, it's a 7.
Yeah.
And I think that's become a joke. It's become like this.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
it's a 7.
Everybody's deck's a 7.
A precon's a 5, and everybody's deck is a 7, and everything else is CDH.
Yes. So like, what, you know, 1 to 10 is a scale. Refinement of strategy being like where we start to like really place our marker on where our decks are. So like if you refine the strategy fully, you're saying that you like, and now this is where it gets confusing too, because I say that every commander can be an 8, but if I'm building a Grun the Lonely King deck that can become a 20/20 smasher, I can make Grun a 10 for what Grun can be, right? I can make a 10 out of 10 Grun deck.
Yeah.
Right? But I can't make Grun itself.
You're not making an 8.
I can't make it a 10 on what is considered like the most powerful decks in the game. So like I can refine it that way. It's just no one's drawn that line yet to say like this is a 10 out of 10. Like my Xeris deck is not a 10 out of it's maybe a 10 out of 10 Xeris deck. I don't know. But that's where we keep running into this dilemma, because I think Jordan and I have both built decks, and I think Ritter has run into this a couple times too, is that the decks we've built are far too powerful for casual, like for sitting at a table, and I will say this is an 8, right? Because on the scale of power that I just read, the table that has gone everywhere and everyone's seen, that's what it would fall into, right? But then I play it and they immediately am accused of playing, you know, CDH or, you know, overpowering the table, or, you know, it's just like, no, I built strategies and synergies into the deck, and playing a Jeweled Lotus to get my commander onto the battlefield actually stimulates my strategy. Who would have thought? So, and you've run into it a few times with Paco. Paco's good.
Not even just Paco, just constantly. Yeah, I find, I was reflecting on this earlier today. I was like, I do think that I just have a tendency to build decks that are way too strong for quote unquote casual, as an ambiguous term, yet not nearly good enough for CDH.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, all right, I'll take this to a CDH server online or whatever like that, or even in person with friends, and you get slapped because it's not a CDH deck.
And I'll say the same thing about Ritter's Yoshi deck. Like, I think Yoshi is one of those decks that if he pulls it out and I'm playing Xerus, you're playing Paco, yeah, and then he's playing Yoshi. I think those are decks that interact well with each other because we're all playing interaction. Now, if Ritter takes that to a casual table, a stranger sitting at the table, he's gonna freaking stomp their face in.
There's no removal. Yeah.
Just
like turn 4, everybody's dead.
But he takes that deck to tournament and he's not winning a game.
He's not getting up.
Like he's not gonna get off the ground. Like, I'm sorry, but it's just not gonna happen. I am excited to see where that deck goes and how it grows, but it's one of those things where like we all run into that. I took Xerus to a tournament, got my face shredded. Like I had fun getting my face shredded, but that's what happens.
I want to take Paco, but I know that will also happen once I do that.
There's also an argument that a lot of players will make that the cost of cards is relative to power. So Jordan, for a long time, you would yell at me for putting Mana Crypt in every deck. I owned one, so I put one in.
I was just at the time and still making a concerted effort when I'm playing casual,
to not have it.
Because I have the tendency to always just power up whatever I'm playing. So I am trying to make that delineation between a CDH deck now and a casual deck.
Yeah, and so a lot of people will see that you're playing a casual deck, or you're playing casually, but you have a Mana Crypt in it, and they will disqualify you from basically being able to play that game because they see the expense, like how expensive that card is. So when you share your deck list online, I know a lot of people, if they do it accurately, will be maybe $1,000 for a deck. And when you bougie it up, you'll realize that like the potential of it could be like $8,000 to $10,000.
Yeah, it adds up.
Yeah, and I just can't say enough how inaccurate that like pretense is or that prejudice is. It's like,
well, yeah, I mean, like Drop of Honey is an $800 card, but you're not seeing a CDH tournament.
Yeah, and I've seen that card played like a handful of times, and it has done nothing.
Yeah, the
entire time. If anything, it blows up in the player's face. So that argument, it just like it goes out the window. And
I don't think there's much merit into cost because there's just needlessly expensive cards for no reason.
Right.
You cannot base that off of power level. Yeah, a lot of really good cards are very expensive, but
a lot of rare cards are expensive.
You throw one Guru Island into your deck and shit, you're overcosted anyway. So.
Yep.
Something just I thought about just while sitting here talking with you is I think outside of the power level thing, because obviously there is a disconnect, right? This exists and everybody's seen it apparently, but we're still having these issues and these conversation or whatever deficits. I think a large part of it is more of a mentality of what you are trying to do and accomplish by playing the game of Magic. I think, and especially in Commander, because it's very, very, very different than every other format in the regard that one person can show up and just barely look at their cards because they are wanting to talk with the people at the table and catch up on their day. Well, other people, like us, our entire play group, many other people that are accused of being too high power or CDH or sweaty, are there to play a game and they're there to win. They play to win is the phrase I'm getting at.
Right.
That is a mentality that we show up with and we deck build with. So when a casual honest player cracks a treasure, my Mayhem Devil is there to punish that. But there is definitely a discrepancy in the mentality of players showing up in a casual format that they take that however they want, because a 1 is just as accepted as an 8.
Yes.
Right? Or a 7. Maybe we'll tone it down a little bit, right? Maybe a 6. Like a 1, apparently a random fucking pile of cards can show up and theoretically should have just as good of a time as a 6 or a 7. When that is absolutely not the case, that is not going to happen whatsoever, and then it's going to lead to a lot of people feeling bad.
And so I guess, that ultimately it provokes a question I was going to ask anyway. What contributes to power? Like, and how is that relative to the scale?
Well, I mean, I think that scale was actually pretty accurate. I think like sticking to, refinement, you see the CMC going down, you see, or mana value nowadays. And then you see like, our strategy, refining, tutors, focusing strategy. You're seeing the same strategy every time. You're seeing on a certain turn level or on a certain turn, you are seeing these things develop, right? Like in CDH, I think we've developed more of the lingo with the phrase like you should be willing to or ready to win the game or ready to stop somebody from winning the game by turn 3 every single game.
Yeah.
Every single hand you mulligan. If you can't do that, your deck's either not good enough, you're not a good enough mulliganer, or that's it. You're a bad player. That's it.
Yeah,
you're trash.
And
your deck's bad or you're bad.
It's all a matter of learning, right? And I think
100%. I'm bad at CDH, so I can say it.
Yeah, you get clapped a few times, and I think that helps the learning process. You realize you have to be reflective, and I think one of the more reflective people we know is Guy, where he takes notes after every single game.
Awesome.
He's and
awesome.
It's like a great way to grow as a player, and so that you continue to develop your strategies and continue to grow in power as a player, not necessarily in deck, but
and exactly, and that speaks to like I want to be better because I love this game and I want to play to win. Like, and you can do that on any level, right? This is not a CDH concept. This is like a just playing a game concept. I play to win when I play Scrabble, right?
Yeah.
So that should port, but for some reason, that scale of 1 to say 6, that mentality does not port, and you will not be what CDH has. You will not have that, where you have this general consensus just showing up at the table. You don't have to have a discussion in advance.
It's why I hate board games. It's like, it's not that I hate board games. It's just I want to play board games with a group of people that have the same collective mindset where it's like going to a casual party and someone busts out a board game and I'm just sitting there and I'm like, is everyone going to try to win as hard as I'm about to win right now?
Like you're trying to win and then some dude's like chatting with somebody he hasn't seen in a while, looking back at the party.
I'm sitting here playing apples to apples and I'm like, this is the funniest card you've ever seen.
They're going to pick this.
Yeah, they're going to pick this one. I know them.
Like stand up and God,
yeah, you're like, Chuck, you know that was the best one.
You're just doing that because you're dating.
Yeah. First of 5 wins, I'm at 4, okay? And so
this is that unhealthy side of competition.
Right. You don't burst out like that in reality, hopefully, but you're definitely wanting to win. And so board games and Magic, I guess, can be relative in that way. If you're someone who tries to win at all times, or you're trying to min-max, your mindset towards winning games, like that's where ultimately we run into the problem with the conundrum that the power level scale gives us is the social contract, right? Because you go to any of these events and they are still social. It's a 4-player game and you need to be able to participate. And if everyone's not on the same level or under the same understanding, which is where we tried, I think that's where this guide tried to alleviate a lot of those issues, but it ultimately created more issues to the social conundrum.
Just because I totally agree, because it's like I said, it's the mentality instead of just the deck. Like these people are showing up with these decks, but it's how they're showing up and what they're thinking about, and none of that is reflective. And you can't plan for something like that.
Yeah, I mean, what contributes to power? If I ask myself that question, the pilot contributes to power.
100%.
Because you can take a precon, and if you make the right play at the right time with that precon, you have a good shot at winning that game.
Right. So I'm saying 100%. Like if you go to a place, like say our local game stores are very casual in Commander. You will not find a lot of CDH. So if you go there and you give them my 5-color Nagila Turbo Adnot deck, right? And you set that right on the table. And you play pre-con Nalia Darani's fresh out the packaging, smells crisp. You're going to win that game.
If the Nalia player knows what they're doing and the Nagila player has no idea what's in the deck. I'm saying that
you take the Nalia deck and you bring somebody else. You're winning the game.
Well, it's happened a few times, and it's happened a few times at tournament where we've sat at the table and someone will introduce themselves to say, "Hi, I'm so-and-so, and this is my first CDH tournament." My first thought, you're a liability. It's because whatever deck you're given, you haven't had enough practice with yet. And so your mindset may be to want to get better, and we want to be more open and inclusive. We want more people playing CDH and competing. Mm-hmm. It's just you haven't seen what all these other decks do yet. Your experience is so much, you have so much to learn. So it's crazy that people will come with decks that are either built for them, which is a mistake, and it's a disservice to that person because then they don't know what they're tutoring for. They don't know what the strategies are, the lines are, or anything like that. And it gets to be, and then it's a social conundrum there too, because you're sitting there and you're like, well, I want you to be able to contribute to this game, but you can't because you don't know what's in this deck. And that has nothing to do with power level, but that's maybe another episode.
Yeah, we've talked about it a little bit on our past, like we've done some tournament updates, but there is definitely that thing. And my only thought is like, I really want people to be more welcome to join CDH, and I want more people to join CDH, but I don't like what I've been seeing where people are being kind of pulled into CDH and their first experience is at a tournament. Like,
yeah.
You wouldn't do that anywhere else. Like, you wouldn't do that in like a soccer tournament or anything like that, right? It's like you need to practice and understand how the game works so that you can participate adequately.
Right.
And I think that completely ports here, right? Because even as you scale it to CDH, that is still a social game. You still rely on, even more so, you rely on the people at the table very heavily to kind of keep everybody else in check. And it's this constant give and take. And that is really the next level of playing CDH, is understanding and being good at that. Like you said, it becomes significantly harder when that person does not understand that, nor do they understand they're having a hard time understanding the basic level, in which case you're having to show them. Other people may be guiding them towards, unfavorable outcomes towards themselves, stuff like that.
So ultimately, we can draw a line as far as like, if we're to say, and I think we're able to say that scale is accurate in some respects. The one that we read off.
Yeah, I think that's pretty good.
Now, how that scale has been interpreted over the few years that it has been available to the public.
It's a game of telephone, bro. It is very different than what I hear.
And we've heard many people say the scale is arbitrary.
Yeah, 100%. Like, even though if everybody stuck to that, I think things would be a lot less arbitrary.
Yeah, if you had this, I think if you were an LGS, or if you are an LGS listening to this, and you put this scale up, and I'll put the link for the scale in the description below. Whoa! So you all can see it. If you put this up and you pointed to it whenever someone had a question or someone had a problem or someone said, "Judge, we think he's being unfair," and then you pointed to that and you said, "Where does it fall on here? Did they miscommunicate to you? Did they lie to you? Is this, can you define it here on this list?" I think there's a couple gray areas on that list where it's like decks with a plan is very like
100%.
A very vague description, because it's like precons have a plan.
Yeah. I definitely agree. It's not perfect, but I don't think anything is going to be perfect on such a big subject. You can't make it perfect. Yeah. And ultimately the reason why I think the scale is arbitrary is because we're looking at tens of thousands of unique game pieces that are available to just the general public when constructing a deck. Yeah, especially in an internal, quote unquote, casual format. It leads to a very large skew of interactions.
Yeah, with a singleton format where 100 individual cards.
Personality is king.
Yep.
Please make sure you express yourself in all of your decks.
And politics are a tool that you can use. So there's all this like infinite possibilities, the infinite uncertainty, like all this like stuff that contributes to the power of the deck also comes from the player. So then you're just like, how do you possibly boil that down to a single number?
100%.
I think that's ultimately what this comes down to is how do you define it? How? And that's a great fucking question. If you know the answer, please leave a comment in the description down below, because we would like to know.
Yeah, I feel like it's like a what came first, chicken and the egg kind of thing,
Yeah. Which came first, the deck or the pilot?
Oh. Probably the pilot? Every pilot had to play the deck came first, bro.
What if like
the cards came first?
What if well, depends how old they are.
The fuck are you talking about?
What if a parent gave their deck to their newborn child, and they grew up with that deck, and then they played it?
That's not the first iteration. You got to go to the first iteration, which is that parent getting that deck, right? Right. But that came first.
Were they born before 93?
What the fuck are you talking about?
All right, let's get back to the actual question at hand. Actually,
I think we're done.
I think we've pretty much answered the question. We just got off on a tangent there.
I thought that was just a wrapping up banter.
It was a little bit.
This is now.
This might actually be
currently right now.
Yeah, yes.
This is the
This is the banter that we're using to wrap up the show.
100%.
Thank you, everybody, for listening to another episode of the Moxstars Modcast.
Moxstars Modcast. Sponsored by Procter Depper.
Thank you.
One day it's just got to happen at this point, if we say it enough.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Moxstars Podcast. If you would like to support the show, you can do so by finding us on Patreon. That's a new thing.
Hey.
I'll leave a link in the description below. You can also find us on YouTube, where you can subscribe, hit that thumbs up, and ring that little bell to know when the next episode is going to drop. And find us on all major podcasting platforms. Join the Discord. Make sure you join that community as we open up new channels for everybody to contribute to.
Get on that Shower Thoughts channel.
Get on the Shower Thoughts, baby.
That's going to go behind a paywall right quick, so make sure you get in while you can.
Get in early. And once again, thank you for listening.
100%.
Have a good night.
Good night, y'all.
Bye-bye.